Hey, bud, can you pause that for a second? I need your help.
Come on, Dad, I'm streaming.
Well, what's the big deal? It's just a game.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight, we are running a game. Showtime!
Let the struggle begin.
All right, we're live here at the Station of Decapitation Without Your Head. I'm Nasty Neil. I'm joined by Michael Leavy, producer of Terrifier 2 and 3, and director of Stream, which is coming out tomorrow. Very exciting.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been a while since we spoke, and no better time to do it than now. So it's an honor, and thank you.
Yeah, and congratulations on everything that's happened since the last time I talked to you.
Thank you so much, Neil. I appreciate it. It's been a whirlwind. We've been working real hard the last couple of years, and now, especially with Stream, just super excited to get it out there to the masses. It's been a long time coming.
So Stream has, we just showed the trailer, has a lot of cool people involved. I like the premise. I haven't seen it yet, I have to admit, but I'm looking forward to seeing it in the theater. So it's starting tomorrow. Where can people go, first of all, to find out like what theater they can see it at?
Yeah, so if you go to iconicreleasing.com, you can see right there, you'll see on the homepage the Stream poster, and you click there, you put your zip code in, and it'll tell you all the theaters that it's playing throughout the week. So we're a limited release starting tomorrow, August 21st to the 25th. And you got to make sure, if you don't see your theater one of the days you're checking, if you check some of the other days, the theaters actually alternate. Some of them are only playing it on, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. Some of them are playing the whole. Some of them are playing just Thursday. Some are playing Friday, Saturday. So, make sure you check it if you don't see it right away. Yeah,
because I just did that, honestly. And because it wasn't playing really close to me right now, but this weekend it's playing very close to me. So do what Michael said and check. So we saw the trailer, but give people an idea of what Stream is about.
Yeah, so first of all, we wanted to make a horror film that was a true slasher at its root and at its core, but we wanted to just kind of update it a little bit, modernize it, bring it more into the 21st century, and, kind of catch up the genre. It's still very reminiscent of the 80s kind of style horror film, as you can see from the trailer, because those are the films that I loved growing up. So those are things that influenced myself, also Damien Leone. So we still, pay tribute to a lot of that style of filmmaking, but we're dealing with, technology, and we're dealing with more modern things. Stream is about a family that's kind of on rocky roads, and they decide to take a little bit of a trip to try to rekindle and, maybe see if their problems can, kind of go away through this vacation. And lo and behold, they get trapped and locked down in a hotel where 4 serial killers are unleashed, and they're competing in a game of most creative kills, most crazy kills, most style points, whatever you name it. And they're kind of in the middle of all this with the other hotel guests.
Now that sounds very fun. And I grew up in the 80s, and kind of what you said there, because sometimes people are like, the resurgence of like 80s horror, 80s slashers, and they ask why. And I always think, well, it's kind of obvious, like kind of what you said, like, people who grew up in that era, now they're making movies today. And it's like, I'm going to make movies, in the, not like I'm just going to recreate what I grew up with, but, in that style of stuff that I love.
Yeah. And look, everything becomes encyclical, but also at that time, they were the most creative things out there. There was no remakes at that time. They were all fresh, new ideas. So there was a lot of fun things happening in the 80s and, late 70s, even the early 90s. And, growing up in that era, those were things that I gravitated towards, and those were things that inspired me. And those are the reasons, a lot of reasons why I wanted to become a filmmaker. So, to be able to have a chance to do this, I'm a huge horror fan. So there, I wanted to include a lot of things that I wanted to see as a horror fan, in a film. And, we did that with Stream. And I'm glad that you said it looks fun, because that's really what it is. It is a fun movie, first and foremost. That's what I hope fans and, people who go and see it come out saying, wow, that was fun and that was entertaining. This is a film that if you see it with a big audience, you're going to be cheering, you're going to be squirming, you're going to be closing your eyes, you're going to be laughing. You know what I mean? Like, we really wanted to have a kind of film that's almost like an event style, where you can just escape for a little bit and really enjoy it. So, I'm hoping everyone turns up and turns out to see Stream in the theaters.
Well, I think right when you say like they're competing for like creative kills, I mean, I think that captures a lot of horror fans. That's what they like to see, and I think it's always kind of weird sometimes when I hear the term fan service, because not that I'm saying this is, but it's kind of like the idea that like, well, why is that bad though to give people like fan horror, any fan, like kind of what they want?
Yeah, and I got to say something that also was really inspirational when we did this film was, I kept going back to the roots with my team of why did some of these other horror films work? And we kept coming because they exposed a safe place and a thing that everyone across the board had done. You start with Jaws, right? Day at the beach. Now you're afraid to go to the beach. You're afraid to go in the water. Halloween did it with The Neighborhood. Nightmare on Elm Street did it with Your Dreams. Psycho did it with The Shower. Camp Crystal Lake, obviously, summer camp with Friday the 13th. So with Stream, we just kept saying, okay, what's something that everybody does? There's kind of an unknown to it. You feel safe, and how can we expose it? It was just technology. It was, the internet and the cell phones and the dark web and the monitoring and the voyeurism monitoring. And, so that really was the base of it all. And then it was like, okay, now let's go and have fun with it. But we were very careful, because there are a lot of films that are out there that do deal with technology. And I think that they rely too much on the tech stuff, and they kind of lose their way with the simple base of what you're trying to do. So this is a slasher film at its core. When you watch this, you're going to say, oh, okay, this is, about the killers, about the kills, and we dove more into our characters too. That's why it's about a 2-hour movie. We wanted to really not just make it mundane killing. We wanted also, have the killing be really awesome and cool, but we wanted you to care about our characters. And that's a reason why we got a lot of these horror icons to join on, because I said, oh, you're trying to make a real movie here. You know what I mean? And
not just like, oh, you pop up for 10 seconds.
I hate that. Yeah. I hate that. You know what I mean? Because there's some movies, and I won't name them because I don't like doing that, where they capitalize on the marketing campaigns of this person's in it and this person, and they come and they say one line, you see their face, and they're done. Now, look, there are people in this film that have bigger roles than others. It's just the natural, beast.
Just like anybody in a movie, though.
Anybody in a movie. And, we didn't set out to say we're going to make the Expendables of horror or the Avengers of horror. It was, we want to find the right people for these roles. We want to cast good actors. And, it just so happened that, you're making a horror movie. You're a fan. They kind of fell into place. And, everybody has their fair share of screen time. And, there's people we're not even talking about that I'm sure will come out that's in this movie that if we could just say that person's name, you'll go, the biggest marketing campaign of the whole thing. But it's not about that. You know what I mean? Like, we don't want we're not using that part of it. That's just it's cool. But again, it's about the script. It's about the story. And that's what I'm really, really proud of and excited to see how the fans resonate to it.
The real classic horror movies, even before like the slashers took off, like you'd see Vincent Price and you'd see these cast of guys pop up and everything, and sometimes together, and it was never like, oh, they're just popping up for a second. It was like, these are the horror people that people like to see.
That's a cheap way to do it. And look, we just didn't want to do that. And you'll see when you see it. And the cool thing too that's different about this film is, whenever I saw movies about a game or a contest or competing, or it was always the victim that was the one in the game trying to get out of the trap or this is the killers. These are the, you know what I mean? Like we had never seen where it was like from that point of view. So like, it's different. And, I think once you see the film, you'll say, wow, this is something cool. And hopefully it's not up to us. It's up to the fan base. And we hope we can get a franchise out of it. But, we have ideas. But again, it's up to the horror fans to deem that, not us. We got very lucky with Terrifier and Art the Clown, but we weren't the ones going out there saying the next horror icon. Like that just wasn't. That's not up to us to say.
I think that's part of the reason why it worked was, people just for whatever reason, they loved Art the Clown and it took off. If you go out there saying this is the next, because I've heard that too, this is the next horror icon, it kind of makes people kind of roll their eyes immediately.
Because like you're not the ones to say that. You know what I mean? Like you're just not. What I can say is, if you want to come and support something that I believe in, come in on the ground floor and come do this with us, but to say the next horror icon, the next this, like even now we feel, even with Art the Clown, we feel imposter syndrome because it blows our minds to even put him in the category with Freddy and Jason and Michael, and he's in there now. He's getting there, and to us, we still
not just because you're here. I talk about almost every show because I'm not just a fan, but I think it's good for independent horror as well as the Terrifier movies have done, and it was also nice to see. I love Jason and Michael and stuff, but it was nice to see a new character actually catch on with people. And this is like an actual icon, a modern icon.
Yeah, and
it's kind of like Captain Spaulding was sort of there. There's not too many.
That's something we're the most proud of, is just what Terrifier has done for the indie filmmaking horror community. The indie filmmaker, it brought attention to indie filmmaking and it exposed it. And it gave movies like Stream, movies like In a Violent Nature, movies like the Winnie the Pooh, again, whether you love them, hate them, or indifferent, it exposed filmmakers and gave them a voice and a shot. And that's something we're super proud of. That's something I'm super proud of. And with Stream, we'd love to do it again, but at the core, we're just horror fans making horror movies that we want to see for fellow horror fans. And then again, if you guys resonate with it and enjoy it, hopefully we get to do it again and make another one. But that horror icon and this and that's not up to us. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I do think that usually comes through in a movie if people are having fun making it. Like, because obviously you see a lot of stuff doing the show, and to me, like the most boring movie is, even if it's technically like really well made, it's just like they were just kind of almost making a movie just to make a movie. But you can overlook, I'm not saying there's a flaw here, but you can overlook like some technical flaws or whatever if you could tell like they're even having fun or there's something original, there's something just like about it, If
it's genuine, and you can tell, you know what I mean? You could tell. And if it's genuine and there's good intentions there, it's going to radiate across the screen, and you're going to know the place of the filmmaker for sure. And I totally agree. You can see the cash grabs, or you could see the soulless, just want to make this because, there's a lot of filmmakers now that want to make horror that don't know anything about horror, don't like it, but they see it as, okay, this is my backdoor into the business and I can capitalize and make some money and make a cheap movie. And there's no soul to them. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like you can tell when a real horror fan is making a horror movie.
Right. Because someone mentioned is when I go see all kinds of movies, not just horror, but I like, horror mostly.
Same. I love comics. It's the same.
Yeah. But besides the big like blockbuster movies, the movies that when I go to that there's always an audience are horror movies. And even if they're, independent, smaller budget. And I know that, but then I also, like we were saying, I think other people then start to notice that who aren't necessarily horror people and like, oh, well, this is, my way to make something for not a huge amount of money, and maybe people will go see it.
Yep. So, we just do it from a genuine place, from a place of this is what we want to see. Had a blast making Stream. There was a lot of, twists and turns. I mean, we did Terrifier 2, then we ended up shooting Stream. A pandemic hits in the middle of this, and then Terrifier 2 comes out, and then we're working on 3, but we're still finishing Stream, and it was a long road, and that's with independent horror. That's sometimes how it goes. You don't have the big studio money behind you to get it out quickly. You got to kind of work on either time or money, and sometimes to save money, you got people working on it in the post that it's on the side, and and we wanted to make sure we also got it out when it was right. We weren't going to rush something through that we weren't proud of, and I'm very proud of it, and I'm so excited that it's finally coming out. The day is finally here. We're a few hours. It's tomorrow that the world gets to finally see it, and it's exciting. It's humbling. It's I'm anxious about it, but I know that we did all that we could to make a good film that we believe in, and now it's time to go into the world and do a thing, whatever, good, bad, or indifferent.
So let's see. Joshua Stout, Stream is going to be awesome. Can't wait to see it.
Thank you.
I can't pop up the ones on Facebook for some reason, but Craig Muckler, Mike from Microwave Massacre, he's really looking forward to it here on Facebook. J Don HOF, but yeah, a lot of people are looking forward to it, which is exciting. And so you haven't had a chance to watch with an audience yet?
So I did one time, and it was it was at the premiere. So we had the premiere in Manhattan last week at the thank you Terrifier 3 at the Angelica, the Village East, and it was the first time I'd seen it with an audience. I didn't see the whole thing because I was in and out a lot with coordinating stuff, but I got to see majority of it with an audience. And it was electric. I mean, I got actually emotional, like a little teary eyed, and I don't, get like that. One was just, it's finally out, it's here, and everyone was resonating and getting it. Now, yeah, of course, there's people that are involved with the film that are there. There's family, there's friends, but there was a lot of reviewers that we invited, total strangers that came, and we heard cheers, and we heard laughs, and we heard screams, and applauding for certain moments, and I couldn't believe the atmosphere. And anybody who's at the premiere, you can talk with, it was like a rock, you know what I mean? Like a rock concert at points. And I was like, wow, I didn't expect that. You know what I mean? I really, really didn't expect that. I know it's a fun movie, but you don't know if things are going to hit or whatever. So now I'm excited to really see it with, the general audiences and see if that translates to the masses, because it was a real high coming out of the screening. And I have a smile thinking about it, because again, I knew we worked hard. I knew we have a good film, but you just don't know how people are how to connect to it. And it couldn't have gone any better. And I'm excited.
Yeah. So I know Terrifier 2 played, festival, and Terrifier 3 has premiere festival. Did you want to do a festival premiere at all for stream, or?
We thought about it. But it's funny, the way the window worked of when we finished the film and when we were able to get a theatrical release, there was no festivals to premiere it at. There was nothing kind of happen unless we waited to Fantastic Fest. But here's the problem with that. Terrifier 3 is in Fantastic Fest. We're not going to compete against ourselves. And Terrifier 3 is coming out in October. So there was really this back and forth and calculation of when we could come out. And we had picked this weekend, because it's leading us right into spooky season. It's before Terrifier 3, so there's a lull from our fan base of wanting something. So we said, while you're waiting for Terrifier 3, we can drop this. But again, there was just nothing there in the festival world. But what is cool about Stream, what we had done, I think, to make up for it, I guess, is, we're putting, I think this is out there, is that the Screamboat trailer. There's a lot of fans that are looking forward to the Mickey Mouse horror film that we're doing. We're doing a comedy horror Screamboat with David Alcor. We're dropping before Stream, exclusively in theaters, the teaser trailer. And, you go see Stream, you're going to see that. And then also at the end, after you stay through, there's a mid-credit scene that we have. But then if you stay through that, at the end, we're doing some behind the scenes and sneak peeks of all of our upcoming projects. So, we really wanted to give our fans and anybody who, comes out and supports us, that little bit of extra, to really make it special for them and to thank them for saying, hey, you saw this. We want to give you all that we can for this experience of going and seeing it in theaters.
Yeah. I sometimes have arguments with some of my horror buddies. Some people are against the idea of the Winnie the Pooh kind of movie and stuff. I actually am in favor of these. I find them, I can't say they're all good, but I like the idea of them. I think they're a fun idea.
I never thought I would do any of those. I like to do my own original stuff, but an opportunity came through with a buddy of mine I went to high school with years ago. We always want to do a project, and he was watching this IP of Steamboat coming into public domain. And the way the script was when I saw it was kind of satire, and it was fun. And again, it was taking a character and flipping it on its head, and not spoofy so much, but a little bit. But there had some really great horror moments. And I said, you know what? I said, this could be a lot of fun, and this could be something so cool. And I said, I want to be a part of that. Sometimes you just read things that come through. And I said, and my buddy, who I respect and always want to do something, so he said, you know what? I'm going to do it. And so here we are, and we're doing it. And we shot the film, and it's cool. It's cool. I'm happy I'm doing it. I think the fans are really going to have a kick with it, a kick out of it, and enjoy it. I like doing. I think you could, from the interview here, I think that you can tell I like picking and doing fun, entertaining films, no matter what, comedy, horror, whatever. I want people to have a good time, escape, and just be entertained.
Well, those two genres are the best to watch with an audience, comedy and horror, because you can actually interact, with each other instead of like I love Schindler's List, but you don't want to sit around and just cry with each other. But,
listen, I love Mystic River. I love Shawshank Redemption. I'm a movie buff. I love films, but those movies, you'll come out and say, oh, that was a good movie, but you're not gonna, be sitting there and having a good time with some of the subject.
Yeah, and you'd be annoyed if someone's like kind of. I'm not saying talk through your movie, but if you're laughing or screaming along with the movie,
These are the kind of films where you can just, with an audience, reactions are great, talking is great, cheering is great. You know what I mean? And it's just a different environment versus those other films where you have to listen intently to everything that's going on and really process what's happening. So, but that's what's great about the movies. There's all different experiences you can have based on
even
whatever.
even within horror itself, like you said, this you're trying to make like these fun horror movies, and then there's stuff that maybe a feel bad horror movie, or it kind of in between, or just a gore fest, all different things.
It's all great, and it's all, you know what I mean? As long as it evokes emotion and connects to you some way, I think that's a positive thing for the filmmaker, and that means you did something. As long as there's a connection with the audience, they're not just numb and have I don't know what, you know what I mean? Then you failed. So.
Yeah. So let's see here. Travis, anxious to see Screamboat trailer. I am too. Joshua, Michael Leavy, you're awesome.
Thank you.
Tooth Brain Productions, which is a cool name. Michael Leavy's killing it in the horror world.
Thank you. Just working hard and trying to, make good films.
James, looking forward to stream. So yeah, a lot of people interested. So when you said it was 2 hours, which is another interesting thing, because I know when Terrifier 2 is coming out and it was announced as like 2.5 hours, there's a lot of people like, oh, that's gonna be too long for a slasher film. And obviously it really resonated with people. It kept playing longer and longer at the theater. So what are your thoughts on runtime? Because I think it used to be we see longer movies play at the theaters. And I think a lot of people used to think like it has to be under, first a horror movie has to be like under 90 minutes.
Being under that was really a money-making thing, because if you have a shorter movie, you can play them more. And if you play them more, you're going to get more screening, more money. That's really where that kind of started from. I think, truthfully, I think pacing is more important than runtime. You can have an hour movie, an hour and a half movie, and feel like it's 5 hours.
Yeah,
you can have a 2 hour, 2.5 hour movie, and it blows by. So I think pacing is really important. I didn't set out to make a 2 hour movie. I actually wanted to be around the hour 40 mark. Really, that's what I was hoping. But I think you have to let the movie be the movie too, and not think so much on runtime. Obviously, you need to be conscious of it and know there, but you shouldn't be so focused on it. You should let the movie breathe and do its thing. And, for this film, they call us, now we're kind of coining the phrase, the mega slashers is what they call Terrifier. And now they're bracketing this into there too. I think in order to sometimes to have certain moments and character development and things, and not just make it so just killing, moving, and let the film breathe. That's why this one is 2 hours. I want people to know this is not Terrifier going in. It's a totally different movie. We do some different things in the beginning of the film where you're going to be like, oh, wow, are they really not going to go that route? And then, it's a roller coaster from there. But I want people to get invested in our characters. I want them to sit down and just settle in and be lost in this world and then go with us on it. But again, it is, whether you thought Terrifier was long or not, or wherever you stand, it was a 2.5 hour movie. Stream is already a half hour shorter than that. You know what I mean? So it's already, no matter how long you thought or whatever. So, again, I just think you have to be conscious of the runtime and not be someone who's not afraid to cut stuff out. But at the same token, let the movie be what the movie needs to be as well. And you'll know that by watching it, you know what I mean? And you'll know if something is a little too long or,
Yeah, no, I'd say on the show, I think a movie should be as long as it needs to be. Because like you said, I've seen plenty of boring movies that are, 80 minutes or 90 minutes. And some of my favorite movies are 3 hours or whatever. So
right.
It just depends on the movie.
It does. Just depends on the movie, the pacing. And, there's some movies that they'll say oh, the beginning was a little long, but then it took off and it went. And some are like, well, everything was great. And then the ending's too long. And then, so it's also subjective too. You know what I mean? It's this whole business, it's all subjective. So again, I'm conscious of it. I just try not to focus too much on it, because I think you do need to let the movie be the movie as well.
So Damien's involved on the FX.
Yeah, Damien's a co-producer on Stream. Damien also does all the effects with Phil Falcone, who did all the effects, obviously, on Terrifier 1, 2, and 3. Well, we had a team on 3, but yes, involved with it. They both came on board with Stream, pretty early on. And our whole crew on Stream is all Terrifier franchise people. We work well together. It's just they're all kind of in different roles a little bit. But it's a real family atmosphere the way we work. It's like, it's really my best friends, and we're just having fun, and it's all the same group.
So did you were friends with Damien before Terrifier? Is that like how you got involved with
I
Terrifier?
got I met him during during Terrifier 1. I didn't know him. We're both from Staten Island, New York. I didn't know him, which is surprising because it's a very small island, and being a filmmaker, it's like even more so. But I had met Phil Falcone on my film Abnormal Attraction. And then that was the one I did with Tyler Main and Leslie Easterbrook and Malcolm McDowell. It's a fun little campy monster film comedy. And I met him, and he brought us on a movie called Joe's War that Damien was also working on. And they were getting ready to do Terrifier. And we just hit it off, and we were brought on board with that, but mostly as an actor. That's why I was Will the Exterminator, the first one.
Yeah.
And then our relationship just grew, and, our bond. And then we came on Terrifier 2 and 3 at a much bigger capacity, actually producers and production team. And, and now we're the best friends. I was at his house last night, and, we hang out all the time. And so, yeah.
So, I mean, obviously it's a great feeling, but what was that like though? So Terrifier comes out, not just me, but people started to talk about it. It was really word of mouth, I think, that really helped build it up. And then people would watch it, and everyone liked, Horror World. And then 2 really takes off. So what's that like, just being part of that and seeing it just blow up?
Very, very surreal. I could remember. So I was at Halloween 40, that convention in Pasadena, when the 2018 movie was coming out. And Terrifier had just gotten to Netflix, and I'm at the convention, and I'm walking around as a fan. I'm a horror fan. I'm walking around. I'm looking forward to meeting some of the actors. I was going to see Tyler, and there was Terrifier pinatas and toys and like little things, unlicensed stuff, but it was all there. And I called Damien, and I was like, dude, this is incredible. Like, people are watching our movie. And then me and my brother started getting recognized, and they were saying, are you in Terrifier? Are you in Terrifier? I was blown away. I'm like, what? I'm here as a fan for Halloween, and they're recognizing Terrifier. And I was calling them up. I said, you should be here. I wish you were here, because I didn't know where it was going to go. I was just like, I figured it's an isolated thing. And it got bigger, and it got bigger, and it got bigger. But still, with part 1, it was still very niche, very culty. It was like not, cult classic kind of things, I guess, where it wasn't huge, it wasn't mainstream, but it had a very strong base and support system. And we just didn't want to let that base down when we were doing 2. We just were very conscious of, we have a base, we have to stick to what we do best. And Damien was very aware of that. We were all very aware of that. And we're thankful for our fans. So we read everything, we listen, we internalize it. We really try to put out what what we're getting from them. And then Terrifier 2 just pops. And it really was the moment. Again, we weren't supposed to be in theaters that long. It was like a stream release. It was actually shorter than the stream release.
Yeah.
It was 1 day, then it was 3 days. And then it was a week. And then it was 2 weeks and 3 weeks and 6 weeks. It was like insane. And I remember where I was with that. Damien called me up, and he says, we were in theaters for 2 days. And it was like, hey, let's celebrate. We're leaving theaters soon. And this is a great accomplishment. It's made its money back. And this is so cool. And we went to a hibachi steakhouse, and, we weren't even drinking. We were just relieved and just together and just sharing stories. And all of a sudden, all our phones go off. Boop, 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 the alerts. We all look, and somebody had passed out in the theater. And they put that up that they vomited and passed out, and then it was everywhere. Yeah. And that moment, we were like, happy at one moment that like, wow, this thing is going. But then also we were concerned, like, we hope this isn't going to be like where people are, getting hurt. But then the bottles of wine came out, and the sake came out, and we were like, this is incredible, because the movie just went boom, and it entered this mainstream. And like, it was a really fun, surreal, special time during that whole thing that I will never forget, because it was just so we never expected it. You know what I mean? And the world changed for us from that moment, going forward. And it was just it's so humbling and just so cool. And, it's just an honor.
Yeah. My friend Annabelle and I, we went to see it in Boston, and it was a really fun experience, not just seeing the movie, but so it was pretty packed, and they showed it in an IMAX theater for some reason. No, it wasn't an IMAX, but they showed it on the big IMAX screen. I don't know why, but it was really packed. And there were people who left because I think they were thinking they were seeing like a a mainstream horror movie. They might
Right, they were
like a haunted house movie or something. And they when things started to get really, people got up and left, which really entertained me as like a
It is.
hardcore horror
I was
fan,
in screenings. I was in a few earlier screenings where like we would sneak in like in the back and just sit and watch it. But nobody even knew we were there. And I went to one particular one in Alamo Draft House with my brother-in-law, and I seen a couple go and walk out. And he looks at me, he goes, "That's got to be awesome." I said, "Yeah, that's like a badge of honor, I guess." You know what I mean? Like, okay, it was cool. Sorry to those people.
Yeah, I felt cool enough. Like I'm not involved in the movie, so I can imagine being involved. Like that's a
It
that's a
was
cool
like wow, like oh my goodness, yeah, it was cool.
Let's see. This was from earlier, but Travis said as long as the movie keeps you interested throughout and flows it doesn't matter the runtime. And he says, "Thank you for giving me a reason to go back to the theater."
You're welcome, Travis.
Yeah. I think that's the best way to watch any movie, though, is in the theater when possible. So.
It is, and I look, even me as a filmmaker, I forgot that because you get so used to the ease of just right there, right in your own home. You don't have to leave, and look, I'm guilty of it too. But when I started going to some of these movies again, like Scream, the new Scream, I went, and obviously seeing Scream with an audience, and I saw the Halloweens as well. Like I started saying to myself, like, wow, I missed this. You know what I mean? This feeling. I remember with Paranormal Activity, I was still, younger when that came out than I am now. Obviously, it was however long ago it was, but I was old. I was maybe after my teens, it was early 20s, whatever, and hearing the people scream as the thing is moving. And in a horror film, right? In those movies, it was the greatest thing. Like I've never seen where people were like this, trying to find the most littlest thing on the screen. When do you intently look at like any corner of the movie? I mean, it just made it such a crazy experience. And then hearing one person screaming, why are they screaming? What are they looking for? And it just made it fun,
Yeah. But Bombshell says, "I'm so happy to see horror community embrace Catherine." I always forget how you say your last name. I did return to Nukem High with her, and she is a total pro. Such a great person.
Yeah, she's a lot of fun. Worked with her on the original Terrifier, and she's off doing her thing and making waves.
Yeah. So obviously you can't say too much about Terrifier 3, but what can people look forward to, I guess, for Terrifier 3?
What I can say is Damien went back to the grittiness that I think we stepped away from in the second film. Like the second film was way more colorful and bright and fantasy to an extent, and Terrifier is much more grimy and grungy, kind of like the first one, maybe even like some of his earlier work with All Hallows Eve. The lighting is totally different, where part 2 we wanted to see everything bright and really like relish in the kill scenes of being so lit. Like in horror movies, nothing's like lit like that. Yeah. He went back to a Carpenter Halloween 78, Black Christmas, Nightmare on Elm Street, the original look, where there's literally just pockets of light surrounded in darkness to give that real gritty feel. And Art the Clown is meaner, for sure. Like we're making him scarier again. Like, you know what I mean? Like he's still playful. He still is Art the Clown. But it's just darker in tone, for sure. And I said this on a podcast the other day. When I read the script of the opening scene, I questioned for a half a second, do I really want to do this? And then I said, of course I do. But it's a good movie, and people are going to really, really, really enjoy it. And I got to give the credit to our Terrifier fans too that are coming over to support us and stream, because that just goes to show the strength of this fan base. And it doesn't go unnoticed with us. Like there are fans that are out there. I don't know if you saw this. It's like this crazy, awesome, humbling, inspiring movement where there are some people who can't afford to get tickets, or they lost their job, or they haven't been working enough. And the fan base is buying tickets for these total.
I didn't know that. Actually, I love that.
It's all buying tickets and saying, tell me what theater do you want? What's the show time? How many do you need? And they're giving, what's your email, and sending them the tickets. And then the proof, the fans are saying, this so-and-so bought my ticket. So I just want to bring attention to that, because these people deserve it. It inspired me. I said, you know what? I'll cool, who needs a ticket? Tell me right now. I said, I'll get you a ticket. I said, I don't want you guys missing this thing and experience on, because you couldn't work today, or, you couldn't work this week, or, or you can't afford it, whatever. I'm just want people to see it and see it in theaters. So I went and got a couple of tickets for people, and it's so cool to see, like, where does that happen? I've never seen that before. I've never seen
that. I love that. It kind of makes me, emotional. I think that's an awesome. That's all. And because I think people who don't go to conventions or whatever, like a lot of think horror fans are all like these. Well, they are some weirdos with black shirts, but they're not like. That doesn't mean they're like bad people. They're a very accepting community, honestly.
Very good heart, and I'll tell you, the internet and the conventions really, everyone used to think, oh, it's taboo, I like horror, and they used to not talk about it. Now you're able to find like-minded people and just see how the best fan base in the world. The only fan base that's kind of maybe close is like Comic-Con and Marvel and stuff, but like, I don't know. Are they as generous? I don't know. I just know the horror community, and they're just so cool. I don't know if you know, there's a Facebook page that was started by a fan who got a stream tattoo before the movie's even out. And he started this thing, and it's got, a couple thousand people in it, and they're talking about the excitement. And that's where this thing originated from, with people getting tickets, and it's at Join the Stream official group or something. But like, just to see this excitement, and it's just such a crazy, awesome, amazing moment to just witness and see. You know what I mean? And I'm just humbled that it's something that we're doing, but just in general, I don't care what movie it is. That is freaking cool.
Yeah, that's amazing. Craig Muckler, he says his buddy Felicia Rose from Sleepaway Camp is in Terrifier 2. So I think she might be in part 3.
As well. She's in
streams. Oh yes, that's right. Yes.
Yeah, she's in streams. Terrifier 2. She's awesome. She actually just did a thing. There's a place in Burbank or North Hollywood, I think, called Horror Vibes. And we just did a collaboration with them. They're doing a streamed drink, like a coffee drink or lemonade.
Wow.
And Felissa Rose and Dave Sheridan went down there out of the goodness of their hearts and just showed up to surprise the fans, take pictures with them, support streams, support the drink. And that just happened today. So she's wonderful. David Howard Thornton, you know what I mean? The fan, it was a line out the door, I heard. I wish I could have been there for it. But yeah, it's something special going on, with Terrifier fans and now Stream. And, I'm just lucky enough to just be a part of seeing it all happen. You know what I mean? It's really cool.
Yeah, just as a fan of the Terrifier movies, when I started to see like shirts and stuff pop up, at like kind of normalish stores, I was like, wow, this is really wild. And then the figures just recently, like the limited edition VHS tape popped up, at Walmart and stuff. I was like, I never would have expected.
No, I walked into Spirit Halloween, and I'm like, they got Art the Clown, and I'm like, what is happening? Like, what? I can go into Hot Topic or Spencer's, and there's mugs and there's shirts, and it's like beyond us now. Like I tell Damien, like it's just beyond you now. This is just, it's out there, and it's so true, and it's so cool, and it's so nice that the horror community really embraced Terrifier, and there's a lot of good people involved, both in front and behind the camera of that franchise. And I'm just happy for all of us and everyone that's involved, because I know Damien, he works so hard. He used to deliver flowers. And one Christmas, we had just finished Terrifier 1, and somebody delivered flowers to my aunt, and I answered the door, and it was Damien delivering the flowers. And I was like, oh, what are you doing? He was like kind of taken back because I just shot with him. So it was like, it was like a weird moment of like, here you go. And I'm like, I'm tipping him, and he didn't want it. He's like, oh, what are you, crazy? And I'll never forget that. Like he worked so hard through his whole life, and I'm just so happy for him. Nobody deserves it more than him. And it's nice to see good people win, and and he's giving it back. He didn't change. You got to see him with the fans, and it's just inspiring. Me to always just be a good person and be great with the fans and be humble and be generous and pay it forward and pay back, and don't forget where you came from. He is like a class act.
Joshua wants to know, Michael, what is your favorite horror movie of all time?
It's a tough question. I always like to give I have a few, but I always like to give the obscure one. I really got into horror through the movie Leprechaun, believe it or not.
Right.
But the first That was my introduction to like more horror stuff. I watched Are You Afraid of the Dark and Goosebumps and things, but the franchise I watched the most of, and the horror icon that I love the most is either Halloween, Michael Myers, or Freddy Krueger, Nightmare on Elm Street. For sure, Tim Curry's performance as Pennywise in the miniseries I also think is great. The miniseries has its flaws. I saw it at the right time, but I think Tim Curry is brilliant in that character.
I love it too, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially the first half, which honestly I think is the strongest part of either one or the novel itself.
It is. It loses its way. Even the beginning of the second is okay, and the actors are great, obviously, but it loses its way with the spider thing. And we did the documentary for that.
I didn't know. I've seen the documentary. I didn't realize.
So that's how we got hooked up with Tim Reed, because we shot his part of the documentary, and then we got him in stream. That's how that all. You never know where everything's going to take you.
Yeah, I really think it's unfilmable the end, because if people don't know, Pennywise is it's not really a clown. It's whatever like scares you the most. So how do you actually film that? If you read it, it's like you think of whatever scares you, but how do you
know how
film
I would have done it? Truthfully, you just popped into my head. I would have let Tim Curry be more in it at the end. Let the adults actually fight him, and then when that moment comes where it's the spider or it's the whatever, would never have shown it. I would have stayed right.
That's really the only. Yeah, the
stay
dead light.
And let them watch and look in that bright light, and like your audience would go nuts because they would fill it in and talk, and you wouldn't let them, because you can't unfilmable. You cannot do it. You can't appease everybody, because everybody, when you read it, has something different, and it could be the most amazing thing in the world. Looking doesn't matter. It's never going to live up to what your mind can. So do the Jaws thing. Don't show it.
Yeah, I agree, because the second one they went really over the top, and it's still like not that great. I don't think.
Yeah.
I
agree.
A little sillier on that one, but I like both versions of Pennywise himself, though. I like that he did a different take on him in the new one, as opposed to trying to.
It was good.
But I think they're both great. So.
I thought the kids.
I probably like the first one they written the best, though.
I agree.
As far as Pennywise,
I agree. But I also think the kids were fantastic in the movie. The kids were really good, and there was funny moments like where those were kids. And they're cursing and they're sneaking around, and the dialogue, like, so that part of the film I really enjoy for sure.
Yeah, I think the first one is, to me, a lot better than the second movie.
It is. I'd love to see a movie where it was like those kids and bigger budget, and you can go gore and with Tim Curry. I'd like to see that, and not take away from Bill Skarsgård. I'm just such a Curry fan.
Yeah, he's great. Yeah,
very charismatic. So I don't know,
Yeah. I just think it was probably like you can't instead of trying to do like what Curry did, like he tried to do something completely different, more like otherworldly, which is probably a way to go instead of
it was
smart.
You
can't do it better, so do it different,
Right. It was a very smart choice, because you're just going to compare and contrast, and and you don't want to just say it's a ripoff of Curry's performance too. So it was, he did what he had to do.
Yeah. So Jeffrey Combs, one of my favorite actors. So I was happy I haven't seen the movie, but I could tell from the trailer that he's, again, not just like a cameo, he's in it a lot. And so that makes me very happy. And did you have him in mind when you're like putting the movie together?
We did. I mean, you obviously have your wish list of who you want. Who the hell knew we were going to be able to get Jeffrey Combs? We did. You know what I mean? Like there was a lot of it was written really for him. And then you have your backups, and you have people that if he doesn't do it and stuff. So we were very lucky and grateful that he did it. And I'm so happy to have him as our Mr. Lockwood. And in my opinion, I'm a little biased, but I think top 3 performances of his career. I think he just had so much fun. And I don't like to say it because it's within my own film. So I'm trying to take it out of my own film and just give it to Jeff. What he did in this movie, you can tell he was having fun. And his manager also told me that after seeing the film, he believes it's also top 3 of his career, if not top 2. So
I'll be honest, just even the trailer, I was like, oh, I think he's like, you could tell, and not that anyone would mail it in, but like you could tell he's having a good time with it.
He is, and he was fantastic in it. I can't wait everybody to see him. He steals the show. He's awesome. I mean, he's just the man. And I can't wait. He had fun with it, and I can't wait for people to see how this all unfolds.
Is it ever hard to direct someone like that? Not like you're starstruck or anything, but it's just like he's a veteran, actor. It's done a lot of stuff, and it's like, how do you direct them?
Maybe at first, it's more the anticipation before you meet them because like they have this image or this persona or whatever. And then as soon as you meet them, it's like they're just normal human beings. It's just you go right into it, and then you're making the work. You're doing the work. You're collaborating. You're partners now. So like that, it happens where you're a little at first starstruck or whatever. You're anxious, but once you really get into it, that all goes away. That all goes away, and you just kind of go through it like anybody else. At least that's for me, which is lucky because then I don't know how I would be able to do it.
Right. Yeah. Different, but so when we started the podcast in 2006, our very first guest was Sid Haig, which is a big guest to have on our show. And so going in, I was like intimidated, but he's just like a really down to earth guy. And right away, it's just like, oh, he's just like anybody else, and he was cool. And
that's so cool that you had him as one of the first guests. That's awesome.
yeah, the very first guest. Yeah. So yeah, it was like I credit him a lot for the show because if that went bad, I probably wouldn't have kept doing the show. I'd been like, oh, forget that. And then and he always put a good word in for me at conventions, and so I hosted panels he was at and stuff. So I was
that's so awesome. Oh, that's really cool. He was a great guy. I met him a few times at the conventions and stuff, and it's a shame that he's no longer with us, but really great guy.
Yeah, huge part of the convention scene, and he always kept his prices the same, and he kind of policed that where like if people were kind of getting out of hand with like their prices or whatever, would be kind of step in. And
yeah, he was really cool. Him and Bill Moseley was one of his great friends. Bill Moseley's in Stream, and he told me some wonderful stories about Sid, and so yeah.
I love Bill Moseley as well. So and I'm happy to see Bill Moseley in it, and hope Bill Moseley's doing good. I know he had an accident at the he was hit by
he did. He was suffering for
bicycle.
He was suffering for a couple of weeks, but he's doing good. He was actually came out to the Stream premiere. And happy to have him part of Stream, and he's one of the supporting more lower roles in the film, but hopefully if we get another one, we never know.
Yeah, you can bump him up to leading man Bill Moseley. But yeah, I mean I could go through, there's like tons of people, but Tony Todd obviously fantastic, Danielle Harris, and cheap plug, all these people are former guests here on the show too, but Danielle Harris,
she's
great to see me.
She did the film too because she had never done a movie where she got to play a mom. And she was like, this is cool. I get to play a mom and do something different. And I'm a mom now with kids. So she really resonated with the story on that level of it and script. And she was like, I'm in. We had her right from the beginning. We wanted Danielle too. And, we got her. And it was like, wow, this is cool.
Yeah. This was supposed to pop up. Here we go. Steve, can't wait to see Stream tomorrow. It was a pleasure chatting with Michael in Knoxville a few weeks ago.
Yeah, I had a great time chatting with you too, Steve. Knoxville was fun. Actually going to be down at Spooky Empire in South Carolina this week. We're going to do a special screening of Stream there where we'll show up with some of the cast and crew on the 24th, Saturday night. So I'll be there for Spooky.
All right, very cool. Travis, Michael, which celebrity would you love to collaborate with that you haven't had a chance to yet?
It depends. It depends on the day sometimes, but I'll tell you too. I've worked with Robert Englund before. I played a younger version of him in a film called Fear Clinic. But I would love. Yeah, I would love.
That's pretty wild. Yeah.
And I got to wear his. I got to be Blackness and do some of the work with that. Great guy. I'd love to direct him. And have him in something of mine. He's for sure. Dick Van Dyke is another great one. Joe Pesci. There's some cool. It depends, but there's some people like that I would definitely love to work with for sure.
Yeah. But that's fine. It's fun to catch us live. Yeah, we're normally live Thursdays, but we want to do this tonight so we can plug Stream coming out tomorrow. And since I haven't seen it yet, I would love to have you, maybe some of the cast back later on after I get to see it, and we could talk more about the movie if that.
Yeah, I would love to do that because it'll be fun. Because like right now, you have to be so cryptic in general with how I can even talk about it.
Plus that's true too. Plus other people will get a chance to have seen it.
Yeah, so I would definitely, look, I'll definitely come back. You let me know when, we'll figure it out. And I'd love to dive into it, see what you think about it. And we can discuss certain reasons why we did stuff. And it'd be fun for sure.
Yeah. So I'm going to talk to my brother, and I I'm sure we'll go see it. So yeah, it's playing. If you happen to live on Cape Cod, it's playing in Mashpee this weekend. But wherever you are, just look it up. Either Fandango or what was the website?
Iconic Releasing, and you can find it there. If you follow Fuzz on the Land Stream franchise, I've been posting that link all over the place.
Yeah. All right. Very cool. And I'm sure a lot of people already know whatever websites you can look up to see where things are playing too. So.
Exactly. I mean, it's on the AMC websites, the Regals, the Cinemarks, the Marcus. I'm learning all the theaters in the middle of the country now that I don't usually know about. So there's like Imagine. So yeah, you can check their websites too and see where it is.
Yeah. Sometimes when I ask someone like, "Oh, where can you get them?" and they just start saying like Amazon, I'm like, why do I even ask this? People know, where you can get this. But yeah, you can check out the websites to see where it's playing. But I'm really looking forward to it, and not just because you're here. I'm genuinely looking forward to streams.
Thank you. I do that too sometimes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And just to the horror community, a lot of people worked hard on this, and it would mean the world if you can see it in theaters. We don't have the big marketing budget behind us so we need the support of the fans. It's not going to be there the week after unless we get lucky. So, the other big movies, if you're looking to see whatever, they'll be there the next week.
Yeah, Alien will be playing for weeks. So yeah,
Scream won't. I mean, unless we get lucky. So if you could see it on the big screen, it goes a long, long way for independent horror and for us, and it would mean the world to have your support. So just wanted to say that.
And if you're like me, who go out and see the movies, if you want them to continue showing movies like Stream, you got to go out and it tells the theater like, oh, it's worth showing these movies. People come out and see them, and then. So you'll get more cool horror movies out.
So true. It really is so true. The theaters watch. The theaters, they're a business. They're all about making money. So, it's if you show up, they're happy and they'll play it. We can only do so much. We got it there. And hopefully you guys show up, show out, and support.
All right. Very good. Good to catch up with you again, and we'll talk again soon.
All right, Neil. Thank you so much for having me, and enjoy the movie.
Thank you. All right. Talk to you. All right, I'm gonna remove you here just so otherwise it's awkward. All right, very good. That was great, Michael Leavy. I'm really looking forward to Stream. Make sure I say Stream. I'm gonna have another guest here momentarily. We're gonna talk about some more. It's also coming out soon. I think next week. His films. We'll talk all about that. I should just have this all in front of me. I do. So that'll come out next week is Fresh Hell, which is a trilogy. Yeah, we'll talk about it. He made 3 movies at once. I don't know. It sounds insane, but that's cool. It's coming out. But Stream, so many cool people involved. Jeffrey Combs. And again, I didn't just say I love Jeffrey Combs because he was Michael Leavy was here. Everyone knows I love Jeffrey Combs. David Howard Thornton, he's great. Been on the show many times. Tony Todd, Danielle Harris. Mosley, D. Wallace, and it just looks really fun. I like the idea. You've got the competition for cool kills. That's right up a horror fan's alley, I think. All right, I'm just gonna tell you. I recorded this interview earlier today, but here we go with the interview with Quinn Armstrong, and then we'll be back again Thursday for our live show. Welcome to the station of decapitation without your head. I'm Nasty Neil, and I'm joined by Quinn Armstrong, director of Fresh Hell, which we'll talk about the trilogy here in a moment. It's good to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So it is a trilogy of films. So can you give people an idea of what from Fresh Hell is?
So Fresh Hell is the original concept for this was like, if you think of something like Creepshow or Body Bags or these like 80s horror anthology movies, the idea was to create an anthology of features that work together but are not a one continuous story. We wanted something that had the sort of like cozy horror concept of, like being out in the woods somewhere, that sort of energy, but then takes it to darker, stranger places. There's we got exorcisms, we got neo-Nazi werewolves, we got creepy slasher guys with blowtorches. We got the whole deal.
Yeah. By the way, I have Creep Show back here in
Hey.
the clamshell because that is the first VHS tape my mom bought me. Back
Oh, nice. Yeah,
in the
I
living
remember
room.
watching. I think I watched Creep Show 2 at like 2 in the morning. I was supposed to be asleep. It was on TV. I watched The Raft, and then my parents had to come in because I was like 7 years old. I was crying my eyes out. Um, and I'd like to say I learned my lesson, but I did not learn my lesson.
No. Before we talk about the movie, then, since you brought up your parents there, were they supportive of you? Like, I want to make horror films at some point.
My mom came out to see my first movie, Survival Skills, which, well, it's not a horror movie, but it's horror adjacent, and there's violence and all that stuff. And afterwards, she came up and she said, "Congratulations, I hated it," which means that people will probably love it. And she said, "That's the one. I'm not going to call me when you make a rom-com." So they're very supportive, if not fully. If I don't think they fully understand why I want to do it.
So I don't know what they'll think of Fresh Hell. There's not a lot of rom-com going on.
Yeah, I very much doubt my mom at least will ever see it. I think my dad might try to make it through, but they're very why would you make something so violent? Why with such horrible things happening?
So you said you went like the idea. So it wasn't like you had 3 scripts and like I'm gonna make them all at once. The idea was I'm gonna make a trilogy of features. And
well, so the story of Fresh Hell begins as all great stories do with a conversation about tax incentives in Ohio. So Good Deed, the production company, and I had been talking about doing something together for a while. And we were, scripts were floating around. I have an enormous backlog of scripts. And eventually we came to this idea of like, well, what if we do 2 movies in one and present them together? And we had The Exorcism of St. Patrick and Wolves Against the World, which are very kind of mirrored two-handers about moral corruption and all that sort of thing. And Good Things Come in Threes. So I wanted to throw Dead Teenagers in there, which is very much not like the other two.
Yeah.
Very weird, abstract slasher kind of thing. And that came pretty late in the process. So this was cobbled together over time.
was there ever like an idea to do kind of a wraparound, like either like a host or some type of wraparound story?
I want to do a wraparound so much. I've had must be a dozen different pitches for the wraparound. And I think it may still happen at some point for like a DVD release or something like that. But essentially this was, the theaters and streamers were kind of like, that means that you're sending us one 5-hour long movie instead of 3 movies, which is a tough sell for them. But I can't promise anything, but I would be surprised if someday there is not a wraparound segment.
Yeah, no, that would work. Like you said, if you get a physical release, like you said, you could do that. Or if it ends up on a certain platform, that would be cool with doing a, the extended cut where you watch them all at once.
Well, those are often my favorite parts of anthology movies is the Crypt Keeper, or for anyone who's seen Body Bags, John Carpenter plays a mortician. And I love the wraparound segments. So I got big hopes for that. Yeah.
And you mentioned theatrical. So in select theaters on the 27th. And before we get too far, where can people go to see what theaters that will be playing at?
So I have zero social media. I don't understand it. It scares me. And so check out Cranked Up Films and Good Deed Entertainment. They'll have all the info. It'll all be laid out in nice infographics and things. So that's the place to go.
Yeah. Now, have you seen the movies with an audience yet?
No. Seeing a movie I made with an audience is routinely the scariest experience in my life. I came up doing theater as an actor, and I did tours all over the country and that sort of thing. And if you're doing theater, if something starts going wrong, you can do something about it. You can, try to figure something out.
You can't go in there and edit your movie while it's playing.
I know, and I want to so bad. I'm just sitting there in the audience being like, oh, we should have just moved that cut just like a few frames over. It's yeah, that's the cost of making stuff, is you can never really enjoy the things you make, I feel.
So do you plan to go see the Fresh from Hell movies with an audience when they're out?
I'm on the fence about this. I really, because I'm going out to Ohio in a couple weeks. We're going to do screenings. My habit is usually to come in, introduce the movie, sit for the first few minutes, and then sneak out to the lobby. And usually I'm sitting there writing while the movie's going on.
Yeah.
But since I haven't ever seen these movies with an audience, I feel like I should. I feel like it's in
yeah. At least the first time anyway. Yeah.
Yeah.
So are they playing all together, like you said, like one long movie, or are they like, can you buy tickets to each one separately?
So the way these are rolling out over the next month is we're going to do a weekend of Exorcism, and we're showing that in theaters around Ohio, and I believe it's coming out on streaming at the same time. And then a weekend of Wolves, and then a weekend of Dead Teenagers, and then later on, we're looking at packaging some of this stuff into a kind of road show, which my dream for would be to do a wraparound segment live.
Oh, I like this idea. Yeah.
Yeah, like, a public access horror host kind of vibe coming out, doing a bit. We'll see how all that works out, but that's my hope.
Yeah. That's become not necessarily that idea, but the idea of going around to either like art theaters or whatever. That's starting to be more of a thing with guests I have on the show.
Yeah, I think part of it's because, there's so much coming out all the time. There's so much content constantly in theaters and on streaming, and finding ways to make it special, finding ways to make it more than just like, oh, we're going to see a movie. Oh, we're going to go have this experience. Oh, we're going to go, this is going to be an event with all these, elements is, I think, a big part of what gets people out of the house.
Yeah, I go to the movies every weekend, and besides like the big movies, the Marvel movies, whatever, people go see independent horror films in the theater.
Yeah,
and then I also have a couple theaters that I like in Boston that show like either old stuff in 35 millimeter or some like weird new stuff. And from doing the show, I've found that there's theaters like that in all over the country in different cities.
Yeah, we're going to be doing a run. I live in Seattle. We're going to be doing a run out here. I wouldn't be surprised if you see us pop up in, New York, LA, Chicago, Boston, hopefully. But yeah, this is one of the things, there are a number of things that sort of attract me to horror, but maybe the biggest one is just that the people who like horror, they come out, they engage, it's a culture. And they are some of the most excited, wonderful people that you could ever hope to. Like, horror fans, I think there's this idea that like all horror fans are going to be like dark, like
covered in tattoos and right.
Yeah. And sometimes they are covered in tattoos, and they're still the nicest people you could ever hope to meet. It's just the sort of subculture of indie horror fans. Bless all of you guys, and for podcasts like yours, they're a big part of the culture. This is what keeps us all going.
Yeah, and there's conventions and festivals all the time, and there's not like rom-com conventions.
No,
as far as I know, anyway. Maybe there is one, but there's definitely not like one every weekend.
Yeah.
So, for the first movie though, Exorcism of St. Patrick. And what interested me right away when I was like, I got the email, and I'm reading, and it's an aversion therapy horror movie, which I think just the idea of aversion therapy is like horror in itself. So, and I don't remember a horror movie dealing with that before, so I thought that was interesting right away. And so when you're coming up with that idea, is that personal to you at all? Like, do you or a friend like have any experience with this?
Yeah, I have a couple friends who went through different levels of this. Uh, and I have friends of friends who knew people who went through it and then eventually um committed suicide, and all this stuff. Like, it is a very heavy subject, and it is something that I have been angry about for a very long time. And I find that anger for me personally is a really good motivator. It is I think there's this perception that anger, if you're angry about something, it's just a wall. It's just a big sort of wall of red, and there's no subtlety, there's no nuance to it. But I think you can sort of dig into your anger and find sadness. You can find joy and light in it. You can find all sorts of emotions. I am a queer man. I have not gone through anything like this, this level of discrimination and I mean, torture. But it is something that I have never stopped thinking about.
Yeah, and so I think so when you're writing that priest character, you could go in a direction where he's obviously like what I would call evil, but I don't think he's overtly, like, you don't see him and you think, oh, this is like this demonic guy or something like that. So I like how you wrote him and portrayed him in the movie, because he outwardly be like, oh, this guy's trying to help somebody, but
Yeah, and I think they are. I think there's without, I don't
which
think
is
that.
probably worse if someone really believes that this is going to help someone. Yeah.
Oh yeah, immeasurably worse. Because if someone's just a con artist, if they're just a grifter, then you can just cut off the source of money and they'll stop. I There's a line in the movie where he says, "We thought we were doing the right thing," which I think overwhelmingly my answer, and I think by extension the movie's answer, is I don't care. I don't care if you thought you were doing the right thing. And this guy, it's funny, I got a couple notes early on from people that were like, what if you reveal that he's a closeted gay man himself?
Which I honestly thought that's where it was going when I was watching it. But
And look, we all know that happens, and that there's a lot, and anytime you see like headlines of like, oh, this, homophobic,
it's almost 90% of the time it's,
yeah, it is.
If you care that much about it, there's usually a reason. Yeah.
Yeah, it definitely happens. But I thought, it's important that this guy believes that he
I
is
also think that would cheapen it if you had it that way.
Yeah, it's an easy answer.
Yeah.
Oh, he's doing this because he's repressed. Sure. But also, what if we dig into, I think if there is a theme to these movies and to, everything that I work on and a lot of horror, it's how do people get to this point? How do people get to the point where they're willing to do these things to another human being? Why do we hurt each other? And for this dude, ultimately it's a number of things, but I think one of the big things you can lay it on is lack of courage. He doesn't have the courage to face himself and to question what he's doing in a deep way. So he just keeps going.
Yeah, because you can just watch that and read that into the character on your own without it being spelled out for you. And,
sure.
And you can read it that he isn't that. So, it's, either way.
Yeah. And I think a big part of this also, it comes down to Steve Pinder, who played Pat, and is first of all, the nicest man in the world. He is the sweetest
He's
guy.
nothing like this guy, right?
Nothing like him. And he is also Steve is also a gay man. And we, both being queer men, we talked about this uh, the importance of understanding that this is a man who has a complicated psychological landscape, and that in portraying that, we felt we were honoring the victims of conversion therapy,
Mhm.
and acknowledging that like it's more than just repressed gay man tortures people. There's levels to it.
Now, had you known him before? Like, had you worked with him before?
We knew, so we both went to USC together. And he was my TA in my first class. And I remember I got in trouble because one of my first assignments was too violent. um, and he was just a really sweet guy about it. He's also a phenomenal filmmaker himself. And I'd been looking for so originally I was supposed to play Pat.
Oh, interesting.
And I was watching auditions, everybody coming in to play this guy, and I was like, okay, all right, I could. And then Steve came in, and I was like, oh, damn it. Oh, he's so good. He's so, you gotta cast him.
No, yeah, he's great in it, and the actor plays Trick. Like, you just feel for him right away, I think, when you see him.
Oh my God, yeah, Michael Klein. I remember he walked into the audition room the first day, and was like, you haven't said a word, and I just want to like give you a hug. I just like his energy is just so open in that way.
Yeah, so I also want to mention when we're talking about these movies, because like you said, there's an anthology of feature films, so you could watch them all together, but you could also watch them completely separate. They're all separate movies, so I don't want people think you have to watch them all, at one time or anything like that.
Yeah, the idea is that they resonate with each other. There's things in common between them that if you watch them all together, I think it's a richer experience.
Yeah,
but the story, you can follow all of them completely on their own.
Yeah. And in any order.
Yeah.
So, which is interesting when they go out, to streaming, because people will find them, maybe they'll hear it fresh hell, or they'll watch one because they like the theme or whatever, and then they're like, oh, well, these are related. So you don't know how, like, which one they'll watch first, or how, they'll come about each one.
My recommendation is the release order is Exorcism to Wolves to Dead Teenagers. But you could do any order, and the hope is that any order would be different from any other order, and would kind of give you a new experience.
I think that's probably the best way to, not that Dead Teenagers is like uplifting in a way, but I do think it's a little more fun I don't know what the right word is, but to more traditionally fun horror movie, I think, to 10 with.
Yeah, it's they're all mean in different ways. Like Exorcism and Wolves are full-throated, angry, pieces. Dead Teenagers is mean to the characters. It's this sort of, like a lot of slasher movies, it's this kind of game of who's gonna die and who do you kind of want to die.
Which is a thing that when you're watching those movies, a lot of times it's not necessarily. It depends on the movie, but a lot of the sequel like slashers aren't really about like, oh, this is an interesting character. It's like, how are they going to die in a fun way, and who do I want to get picked off first?
Yeah, there's a Carol J. Clover. Wrote a book called Men, Women, and Chainsaws, which is sort of about slasher movies in this really interesting academic way. And she talks about how in the first half of a slasher movie, you're identifying with the killer. You are, you're in Michael Myers' mask. You're following, and then, you see these like people, everybody commits a sin, and then they get punished for it. And then it flips later on, and you identify with the final girl.
Yeah.
Who, when she's going after the bad guy, which is really interesting. I mean, I love with slasher movies that you can just sit there and watch people die and have fun, or you can, if you want, dig in and like really, get to the deeper stuff underneath it.
Yeah, yeah, and it definitely depends on which slash you're watching.
Yeah, it is. There's certain ones that may be less rewarding.
Yeah, yeah. Before I forget though, on Exorcism, there's a little part of it I really like too. Not to spoil too much of it, but I think it kind of more like the root of like the evil of organized churches. Kind of the idea of like we're gonna move this guy around and not like we're gonna protect him. We're gonna move him around. We're not gonna like hold him responsible for anything that happens.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's one of the most infuriating parts of all of this when you read news stories about, oh, this priest or whatever did this thing to these kids, and then you look into it and you're like, oh, he's done this before. He's done this like 5 times. And the Pope or whoever just moved him to a new country because there is a conspiracy of silence. And that is, these are indie horror movies. They're going to go out to who they go out to. I'm not saying they're going to, like shock anybody, but hopefully the more we talk about this stuff in general, the more we can kind of chip away at that exact conspiracy of silence. And we can,
Yeah, and I think a lot of ways that's equally as evil or more evil than the actual act in a lot of,
Yeah, well, the act is isolated. It's horrible that these things happen, but it is one moment and one person. And that's awful enough. But yeah, it's the mechanism around, because people always do horrible things to each other. And people always, it is the worst thing in the world, but people always do horrible things to children all throughout human history. It's the mechanisms around it that allow it to continue and to go unpunished that really are, I feel, should be the target for all of us.
So is it the same crew on all 3 movies? Like, same effects artists?
Yep, same crew all through. It was like summer camp. We were in like dorms in rural Ohio, going out to a Christmas tree farm to shoot most of this. I was so blown away by the bench of talent in Ohio. Really, really incredible, an all Ohio crew. Speaking of VFX, the amazing Dave Greathouse did all of them, those wonderful wolf effects, the hovering effects, all this stuff end to end was him. I didn't know what to expect. I hadn't worked in Ohio before, and man, was I impressed.
Yeah. And so did you film like back to back to back, or like them all together in some ways? Or
Yep, back to back to back. We were the gods blessed us because we shot Dead Teenagers first, and everything was green and beautiful and summery. And then the day we wrapped, everything started turning fall colors.
Yeah.
We shot Exorcism, and then the day we wrapped Exorcism, all the leaves fell off the trees, and it started snowing, and we were in winter.
That's cool, because then it's similar, like it's in the similar world, but it's still like slightly different. So
I felt so lucky. I felt like a god.
Yeah.
Who control the weather.
So some of the actors are in a couple of the movies. Like Patrick pops up very briefly in one of the other ones. The actor plays Patrick. Was there ever like an idea of like we're going to have recurring characters, not just a wraparound, but maybe this character pops up again as the same character in another movie?
So there's an actor who plays the sheriff in Dead Teenagers, and we had him come back to play a cop at the end of Exorcism. And in Dead Teenagers, he had this line. He came in on the day and was like, "What if I have like a little bit of a Southern accent?" And I was like, "Cool, let's do it." And so he had this line where he said, "You're telling me there's some kind of monster?" And every crew member repeated that line the entire time. They would just like walk up to me and be like, "You telling me there's some kind of monster?" We would be like, "Okay, let's change to like a 21 millimeter lens." And they'd be like, "You telling me there's some kind of 35 millimeter lens?" And we wanted to bring him back for the third one. And we were going to give him, in the first one, he was going to say, "You telling me there's some kind of monster?" In the second one, he was going to say, "You telling me there's some kind of murder?" But he, unfortunately, he got COVID right at the right before we could bring him in for the third one. So there's a couple like that, but they're often, Maya, who plays Alana in Exorcism, the one of the victims, plays one of the leads in Dead Teenagers. She wasn't supposed to. She got the call for that role about a week before we started filming, because we had another actor drop out, and God bless her, she dived in and was amazing. But often we have actors in all three of them because we're just patching. We're just patching up holes, trying to keep the thing going.
Yeah. Well, I knew the one because she's in the poster art for Dead Teenagers. So I was watching them in order, and I looked up quick on IMDb to see if they had the same character name. I was like, I wonder if she pops, if she's supposed to be the same character that she was in Exorcism, but it was different. But so Wolves Against the World. Now you talk about some personal connections to Exorcism of St. Patrick. Was there any personal story with Wolves Against the World?
Oh yeah, probably the most direct one. When I was 19, I dropped out of college, and I was back home in New Mexico. I felt like my life was like over. Everything had just fallen apart, and I was going to these like death metal shows in skeezy places, in like machine shops and like backyards and stuff like that. And there's like a vibe to it, and it's good. But if you're a young white kid going to these shows and you're alone, eventually the Nazis will come, and they won't say like, "Hi, I'm a Nazi." They'll be like, "Hey, how's it going?" And they'll be so friendly. And I'm very glad that I had the presence of mind, at that point in my life, to tell them to, fuck off. But I wondered what it would be like if I had been lonelier, if I had been raised differently. Because I've spent a summer basically fighting them. They would come to a show and then everybody would fight the Nazis. Like it would end up in, a fist fight. There's at least one dude who has a broken nose because of me, from that time. But yeah, it was sort of like alternate universe me. What if that had worked? What if that was where? Because the pitch they make is, we'll be your family.
Yeah.
We we'll take care of you. We understand how hard it is, and then the the racist rhetoric and all that stuff doesn't come till later. But yeah, the character that I play in Wolves is like the worst version of myself, from that time.
What you're saying there, I like the main character, because he talks about how he got sucked into this. So it's not necessarily that he believes that he was sucked into it through the temptations you talk about. And I also think it brings up a question of can some redemption, which I do think is a question for today, because sometimes I think people do something bad or get sucked in, and then that's the end of them. Like they can never be redeemed. But it depends what you do and everything. And so I like that the question is there, can this guy be redeemed, or is he just, that's the end of him?
Yeah, I mean, I think that question is going to be different for every person.
Sure, and different whatever they've done too.
Yeah, and I would never presume to tell, for example, like a Jewish person, like, "Oh, you should forgive this rhetoric or something." But I do think, and one of the things that I think the movie kind of says is, it's a life for a life. If you kill someone, then in order to redeem yourself, you have to forfeit. your life. And that doesn't have to necessarily look like death. But I think of, there's this guy, I believe his name is Christian Piccolino, who was a former Aryan Nation neo-Nazi dude. And now he spends his entire life giving talks and educating and, fighting these organizations. And if you kill somebody, I think that's the exchange. You gotta give your life over to undoing as much as you can the harm you caused. I've never been in this position myself. It's very easy for me to sort of say a life for a life, but that makes sense to me.
Yeah, well, like I said, when I was asked the question, there's not an easy answer to the question.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not just black and white, but I like that it's all these movies are stuff you think about. That's what I like about horror. I mean, there are stuff that I could just watch and it's just either really silly or it's just the big bloodbath or whatever, and that's fun too. But then there's horror movies you think about. The genre is very open to all different types within the genre.
I honestly find myself thinking more about the trashy slasher movies. I think about them more deeply than I do about stuff like Hereditary or the sort of. I like Hereditary. I hate the term elevated horror.
I mentioned this a lot on the show. Yeah, I think the people who use elevated horror, it just makes you groan and makes you not want to like those movies.
Yeah,
even though I like most of them. So, yeah.
I think Ari Aster and Jordan Peele and these guys would be the first people to say don't use this term.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, one of the things about horror is that it's folklore. You don't necessarily the way you analyze drama is you're okay, we're going to look at the best dramas. We're going to look at Godfather and stuff like that. With horror, you don't have to look at the best ones. You look at the stories that are repeated. Slasher movies are folklore, and you examine them as a whole, and it's incredibly rewarding. My creative life is horror at this point. And I have never found the bottom. I've never hit a point where I'm okay, there's nothing left here. And I never will.
Yeah. That's interesting too, is the idea no one really watches quote unquote bad dramas and be these are entertaining, and they're I guess some people do, but it's definitely not the same as people who watch quote unquote bad or trashy B level horror films.
Yeah, which is one of the things that I'm chasing all the time is the feeling of being up at 2 a.m, stumbling on something that you never would have seen and just entering this strange world for a couple hours all alone on VHS or whatever, bathed in the glow of the TV, and just that kind of channel, that 1-to-1 where you're just 100% in it. Doesn't matter if it's good or elevated or whatever. You're just, it surrounds you. It immerses you.
Yeah. So that's same thing being in a theater. You can't escape it. I guess you could pull out your phone, but then you're just kind of an asshole with that.
Yeah. Oh my God.
So, I was had to mention that I was happy that there was a D&D reference in
the
world, because I grew up as a big D&D kid in the 80s.
Oh yeah, no, I played since I was a kid. I remember the character that they there's a character sheet that the guys take out.
Yeah.
That character, I think the name is Noldor Greymantle. That was my ranger.
I was a big fan of the ranger character as well, so that was good.
I was playing 2nd edition AD&D.
Yeah, that's what I played as well. So
yeah.
I thought maybe I think you're younger, so I thought maybe you played one of the later ones. But yeah, I played 2nd edition.
Yeah. Oh my God, I still like the painted art, the covers. Burned in my brain. I remember the horse on the player's handbook and the
monster manuals. And a cheap plug, we have a line of Without Your Head shirts that are not copied, but homages to the old D&D book.
Oh, amazing. I'll buy that.
I'll send you a link.
Yeah, please do.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
So yeah, how about the music in Wolves Against the World? Like, just I don't know how you who did them? Like, were they anyone you knew? Or?
That was me. The music for Dead Teenagers and Wolves is mine. The music for Exorcism is our amazing composer named Josep. So I'm not a musician. I am a dude who has figured out that I can record stuff, and if I just do it 100 times, I can eventually get it. This is like I can't play death metal. I can't play thrash. I can't play black metal, but I can play funeral doom. And so they are a funeral doom band. Stuff like Bell Witch and like Catacombs and things like that. These big, slow, heavy sounds that at first I was like, oh, I guess I kind of have to do this because this is the only thing I can pull off. But eventually that kind of ethos seeped its way into the movie. It's not about psychopaths in the traditional sense. It's not about like crazy screaming, all that sort of thing. It's about the like slow creep of corruption over time. And eventually I found the music fitting pretty well.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Was casting Dead Teenagers more difficult because the first movie's really the two characters, and then Wolves Against the World has more characters, but it's, primarily like 2 or 3 or 4 like main characters, but there's more characters in Dead Teenagers, which now that I'm thinking about, maybe it's even harder to cast for Exorcism, because if you don't have like those, if you don't nail those 2 characters, that's like pretty much most of the movie.
Yeah, I mean, Dead Teenagers was interesting because there's like, you have the stereotypes that all these characters are. Mm-hmm. And a lot of what Dead Teenagers is it's a fake out. The premise would have you think, oh, this is like Scream. Like, these are going to be self-aware characters inside a movie making jokes about how they're in a horror movie. And I wanted to sort of set up the premise, and then it goes a very different direction with it. Yeah. And in the same way, I wanted to take these stereotypes and cast actors that you wouldn't normally see, both in terms of like overall energy and performance, also in terms of ethnicity, also kind of in terms of age. In some respects, we've got, actors who look like they're 12 and actors who look like they're about 35 playing 18-year-olds. And that's by design. We wanted people who would surprise us. And in that respect, Dead Teenagers was tough. We also got so lucky because those kids are still friends. They like go on little trips together and stuff. They became such close friends so fast in that process. And that like energy kind of seeps into the movie to the point where one of the hardest things to do was to get them to be mean to each other. But
yeah. No, it's did you think any about going to festivals at all, or like how did you come to get them to we're gonna play theatrically?
It's a tough sell for festivals because
it's 3 movies.
Yeah, and you got to block out big chunks, and we considered it. We talked a little to Fantasia that did my first movie, and we talked a little to some folks at Tribeca and stuff like that. Eventually, it was just like, hey, we've got record numbers of submissions. We're not really set up for this. Mm-hmm. And the other thing is, a festival run is a time-consuming process. And post for these 3 movies took so long that I think we reached a point where we were like, hey, let's just get them out there. Let's. I adore the festivals. I'm there. It's so much fun. My first movie came out like smack in the middle of COVID,
Mm.
so I didn't get to actually do festival stuff. I
Yeah,
was
that's too
sitting
bad.
there. They would have like virtual lobbies set up.
Yeah, yeah. And well, that's better than nothing, but it's definitely not the same.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they did their best and bless them, but I missed the real festival experience.
yeah, yeah. So my features just finished their festival run, and it was over multiple years, so it is a very time. And not to make it about me, but it's two movies that played together, so it was very hard to get. And the one movie's only an hour, but it was still hard to get them to play both movies. We didn't know if anyone would do it, but we were.
It's tough. It is really tough, especially because like the bigger festivals. This is I don't know if I'm like giving away trade secrets for anybody, but like somewhere like Sundance,
Yeah,
they book out most of their stuff long before submissions open, and the
Mhm.
remaining slots are because they work with the agencies, with like CAA and WME, and the remaining slots are usually for non-American, for international movies. So for the bigger festivals, it is competition is increasingly fierce, and you think you're fighting for one of like 12 spots when you're actually fighting for one of two.
Mhm.
um it's I and this is another reason why I love horror. I just think the genre festivals are better. They're more fun. I see weirder stuff. I see
Oh
cool
yeah.
things. This like I've been to Sundance, and Sundance is great. And if they called me tomorrow, I would be like, yes, sir, I will come
Sure, of
immediately,
course.
sir.
Yeah.
Um, but but you kind of know what you're getting with a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, the festivals you see a lot of stuff that doesn't fit into like one, even though most of them are a lot of ones I go to are horror or underground festivals, but a lot of stuff doesn't fit into like one genre, which I
I
do think is becoming more acceptable even theatrically because there's some more
Yeah.
weirder stuff uh, being playing at the theaters now.
Yeah, I'm still Fantasia to me is the best festival in the world right now. I every year I'm blown away by what they program. It is I was lucky enough to go there in 2020, but like man, the stuff you see there. Um, and again, like indie horror fans will seek stuff out. They're engaged. They're not just waiting for stuff to hit theaters, and I love that.
Yeah, yeah. So I know these aren't festivals, but I do support them, and people should check them out, regardless of what level you are. If you want to get involved in something, or if you are involved at any level, or if you just want to go see cool stuff, I recommend festivals.
Yeah, and congratulations on your festival run, by the way.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate
Amazing.
that.
Yeah.
Thank you. We got some trophies up here.
Hey.
But so Dead Teenagers, Wolves Against the World, and The Exorcism of St. Patrick. I did those in reverse order for some reason, but those are the three from hell. Three Fresh Hell. I'm sorry, I don't want to say from hell. Fresh Hell. Will there be additional Fresh Hells down the road? Or does it? I guess it depends on how these go.
I'm always off doing like weird goblin stuff all the time. I
you happy?
No.
Your parents love you so much. They just want you to be happy. And love in this world is precious. I want you to say as honestly as you can that you are lost.
There are many churches that just don't care anymore. There are gay pastors.
Every concession to the outside world costs a little bit of our souls.
You're a pastor?
Yes, ma'am.
Is the kid in there?
What kid?
Take the car to the end of the driveway, block the exit, and call the cops.
I am saving your soul from an eternity of torment.
What do you do to something that took away what was most precious to you?
Do you do exorcisms?
Well, no, not technically.
I'm so scared of her. So scared of her. I'm scared of her. So scared of her. Scared of her.
See you in hell, monster.
Hey.
But so Dead Teenagers, Wolves Against the World, and The Exorcism of St. Patrick. I did those in reverse order for some reason, but those are the three from hell. Three Fresh Hell. I'm sorry, I don't want to say from hell. Fresh Hell. Will there be additional Fresh Hells down the road, or does it? I guess it depends on how these go.
I'm always off doing like weird goblin stuff all the time. It depends how these go, I think. But I think regardless, Good Deed Entertainment and Cranked Up Films is doing some really cool stuff in Ohio and helping to build a really cool film industry out there. So whether it's mine or not, whatever starts coming out of Ohio, for regional horror fans, especially if you like horror with like a specific regional flavor, man, keep a tab on Ohio right now. There's some cool stuff happening.
All right, very cool. And you're not on social media, but people can check out what was it?
Cranked Up Films
Cranked
is
Up Films,
is the genre element. I'm going to get yelled at after this because I'm going to be told I need to be on social media. But
yeah, unfortunately, it's kind of a thing. You
yeah,
it's not always fun, believe me, and it's also very time wasting.
Yeah, I have a tough time with that. I think if people are interested, just Google my name every like 2 years, and you'll find some weird thing that I'm doing somewhere.
Yeah. No, I think you're probably better not being on it in a lot of ways. It really is just a big waste of time. But I guess it would depend. Maybe as a director, not so much, but like for this show, I have to have social media,
absolutely.
obviously. And I think for most actors today, especially independent actors, they kind of have to be on social media.
Oh my God. I recently had a meeting with a production company that shall remain unnamed, where we were talking about this script that had been getting some heat for a while and it seemed like a good moment. And they came out and they were like, okay, we'll fund this, but you have to put these 3 social media influencers in it as the leads. Absolutely not. I don't need your money. Like, bless you and good luck. I hope you do well, but
yeah, not even like a cameo, or it's like the lead.
Nope.
Yeah.
The mere fact that you're trying to make me do it just makes me angry.
Yeah,
it's like,
or maybe I can even choose like, can you meet them and maybe like if they're right for something or so. Yeah.
No, I'm petty.
No, this sounds pretty awful, to be honest. But I really dug all 3 movies, and not just because you're here. I really like them, so I hope people check them out. I love to see them in the theater, so go and see where they're playing near you. And I know it's kind of cliche, but to me, there's no better way to watch a movie than on the big screen with an audience, especially horror and comedy. There's not necessarily a lot of comedies, but those are the 2 movies, I think, 2 genres that are the most enjoyable to watch with other people.
Yeah, I think it's with most movies, especially any good horror movie, if you watch it in theaters, you're getting a whole different experience.
Yeah.
You watch it at home, watch it in theaters. You know, you'll feel the difference.
Yeah. All right. Very good. Thank you for doing this.
No worries. Thank you so much. This was such a pleasure. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. And 2 more years, we'll do another one.
Yep. I'll be out here with something else.
All right.
All right. You have a good one. Thanks so much.
too.
People need more death in their lives.
I feel like killing someone tonight!
It's good to see you.
Yeah, man, you too. You live out here now.
Yeah, I run a men's workshop on the other side of the property.
Men's workshop.
Yeah, getting in touch with the feelings. You're staying for a day or two.
Don't you miss it? What we had up here.
I've known you my entire life. You were best friends, dude. You made me think that you cared about me, but it wasn't about me, was it?
Andy.
Because you left as soon as he died.
Whatever you got going on out here, I can't be a part of it.
Tonight we welcome a new brother. Hans.
You said you were done with the movement.
I am.
I've outgrown it. I did a lot of work to not be that guy anymore.
Just remember, I'm not the only murderer in this room. We're all wolves. All just circling and snarling and snapping at each other.
See you in hell, monster.
I wanted you to be safe.
Morning!
How are you? So good.
We have a pretty good group of friends.
Maybe we can all move in together or something.
I love you. I never want to leave this place.
Do you know what's happening? It was all written long ago. It's like a script for a movie about us.
Not us?
So you think all of this is just a movie? Where's the script? I wanted you to be safe.
So just call the police.
Are you scared of something? I am gonna do whatever it takes to get us out of here.
See you in hell, monster.